Imagine a humid evening in February 1990 in the bustling Talipapa or market of Old Balara, Quezon City. The clicking of Mahjong tiles is the soundtrack of the neighborhood. Groups of men are huddled around tables, some playing, some just kibitzing, watching the game. Among the crowd are Federico Medina and Danilo Almerio. They have no idea that in just a few minutes, the Mahjong house will turn into a crime scene. A man named Virgilio Borreros is walking toward them. He isn't there to play. He's carrying a handgun. By the end of the night, 2 men are dead, and 1 man begins a 3-year run from the law. Was it cold-blooded murder or a desperate act of self-defense? Today, we're breaking down the intense case of People versus Virgilio Borreros. Let's look at what happened according to the prosecution. Arturo, a tricycle driver, sees Borreros approaching the Mahjong house with a gun. Borreros walks up to Federico Medina, who is busy watching the game. Borreros calls out, "Pair." When Federico turns around, Borreros fires a single shot directly into his forehead. Panic ensues. Players dive under tables. Arturo hides behind a door. Then, 3 to 4 more shots ring out. When the smoke clears, both Federico and Danilo are lying in pools of blood. Borrero's chilling last words? "Come on, pair, he is already dead." But Borreros had a very different story. He claimed Federico and Danilo were the neighborhood toughies. He said Federico had chased him with a rattan stick earlier that day. When Borreros returned to get some golf balls he'd left behind, he claimed Federico collared him and drew a gun. Borreros says he managed to wrestle the gun away and shot Federico in fear. Then, he claimed Danilo attacked him with a batuta club, forcing him to shoot Danilo as well. He called it self-defense. This brings us to the first major legal issue. Under Article 11, Paragraph 1 of the Revised Penal Code, RPC, a person is justified in defending themselves if 3 things are present. 1. Unlawful aggression. 2. Reasonable necessity of the means used to prevent it. 3. Lack of sufficient provocation. The court looked at Borrero's story and found it hard to swallow. Why? First, the rationale. If you were just chased by a man with a stick, would you go back an hour later just to get golf balls? The court said this goes against human nature. Second, the court ruled that unlawful aggression must be a real imminent threat. Borreros admitted he had already disarmed Federico. Once you take the gun away, the threat is gone. By shooting an unarmed man, you become the aggressor. Now, let's talk about why this was charged as murder for Federico, but only homicide for Danilo. This involves Article 14, Paragraph 16 of the RPC, treachery. Treachery exists when the offender commits a crime against a person using methods that ensure the execution of the crime without risk to themselves. The court's ruling on Federico, even though they were face-to-face, the court found treachery. Why? Because Borreros called Federico's name and shot him the moment he turned. It was so sudden and unexpected that Federico had 0 chance to defend himself. Under the law, a frontal attack can still be treacherous if it's a surprise attack. The court's ruling on Danilo. Here's where it gets interesting. Danilo was shot 4 times, mostly from behind. The prosecution said, "Look, he was shot in the back. That's treachery." But the Supreme Court said nitrogen monoxide. To prove treachery, you must prove how the attack began. Since the witnesses were hiding under the table when Danilo was shot, no one saw the start of that specific struggle. Treachery cannot be presumed just because the wounds are in the back. Therefore, the killing of Danilo was downgraded to homicide. There was one more nail in Borrero's coffin: flight. After the shooting, he vanished. He was caught 3 years later in Tacloban City. As the court always says, the innocent are as bold as a lion, but the guilty flee even when no man pursueth. The decision: 1. For Federico Medina, guilty of murder. Penalty: reclusion perpetua. 20 to 40 years. 2. For Danilo Almerio, guilty of homicide. Penalty: an indeterminate sentence of 10 years to 17 years. 3. Damages: he was ordered to pay Philippine peso 50,000 to each family. This case is a stark reminder of two things in Philippine law. First, if you claim self-defense, the burden of proof is on you. You have to prove the other guy started it, and you had no choice. Second, the difference between murder and homicide often comes down to a single second of treachery. What do you think? If someone shoots a person in the back, should the law automatically assume it's murder? Or is the court right to demand proof of how the fight started? Let me know in the comments. If you found this breakdown helpful for your studies, or just for your own knowledge, hit that like button and subscribe.